What do you think about Miriam's continuing protest? They say that she had been cheated in the election, that she feels that new elections will have to be held in August, that all these things that she have hit her hard, and that it has been very unfair to her.
First, Eddie, I want to say I'm happy to be with you here tonight. And I like your metaphor about Pinatubo erupting for the first time a year ago, because I think many pundits and many people are making the same observation about Miriam and what she has embarked on in a post-election scenario. I think that Miriam Santiago has proven several points in this election. First of all, she has proven that a non-traditional politician like herself has been able to score points, has been able to prove a point that a non-traditional politician can make waves in a country like ours that has been that has held traditional sway over the voters, the traditional politicians. Then second, I think she has blasted the myth that the Filipino, that women, as a general belief, are the weaker sex. I think she's proven, and you yourself say...
I don't agree that women are the weaker sex in the Philippines.
Oh, good. That's nice. I'm glad you're capitulating on that point, because I think she has proven that. But on the other hand, how she has behaved in the post-election scenario is now open to question, because many people are asking the question, why is she behaving this way? What are the reasons for it? So I do agree with you that tonight there will be fireworks regarding this question.
I think you're right. I mean, among other things, and we're not relating Miriam to Mount Pinatubo, I think that Miriam is also a creature of nature. And nature is normally female or feminine. And nature is very passionate. And nature is a way, as a matter of fact, of showing its disappointment with the things that are happening on the surface. And so every now and then, nature explodes through a lot of things, like a volcano, like a tidal wave, like a typhoon. And they're all named women, as a matter of fact.
Teddy, I question that. I wonder why all of these vicissitudes of nature are named after women. It's not only women who throw rages like this, but you will also note that when Mother Nature releases her wrath, there is much to be feared. And so maybe the question here is Miriam behaving like Mother Nature, or is this a natural course of things?
Hell has no fury like a woman who feels she has been cheated in the election. So I think that's the bottom line of what is happening here. And so let's say we would like to welcome our guests immediately as possible, and we will pause for a break. Once again to Firing Line. And happy birthday, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Happy birthday.
And so, as a starter, we would like to find out from you how you feel on this natal day of yours. You're living a very exciting life and continuing to blast away at the results of the May 11 election, and at the fact that you cannot accept that Fidel Ramos is the apparent winner so far in the May 11 elections. How do you react to that?
I'm extremely delighted that I was born into this world on June 15, 1945. So I'm 47 years old. You are therefore addressing a woman on the verge of old age, Teddy. But let me tell you also that June 15 is not my exclusive birthday. It is likewise the birthday of the late Finance Secretary, Jaime Ongkin. And I am not the only Gemini person in the People's Reform Party. One other person, at least, is Ramon Magsaysay Jr., whose birthday is June 10. So we've already gone to church. We had about 500 or more people in my parish church this morning, contrary to my own expectations. I go there every 6 o'clock in the morning, and I didn't expect to see so many people. That's the principal reason why I was not as punctual as I should have been for this show.
So that you're forgiven, easily forgiven.
In today's Globe article, there was an editorial, which, and I quote from it, it says you have... there's a grave misreading of the mood of the country at this time, and that people are commenting in several columns that your protest actions post-election scenario is uncalled for, and the Globe editorial did even say that it is a sign of immaturity. Do you agree with this, and what is your opinion about this particular editorial? I have not seen the editorial or any of the columns to which you advert, and I wish it had specified what particular behavior, because I have become reconciled to the fact that my behavior seems to be aggravating to certain people in this country, whatever the nature of the behavior might be. And so I'm no longer surprised by this reaction. If that refers particularly to the fact that I continually attempt to expose election fraud, then I plead guilty to that offense. But I must also add that I view it not only as my legal right, but as my moral duty, not necessarily as a presidential candidate, but as a Filipino citizen, to tell not only the Filipinos, but the whole world about election fraud, because election fraud is nothing but the naked manifestation of evil in Philippine society, just as graft and corruption is.
Well, the editorial is also saying that your misreading of the nature of the way people feel now is that people want this election thing to be over with, and that there is no rampant feeling that there has been cheating or manipulation of the polls, and that, in a manner of speaking, that you should just keep your peace and not provoke any more unrest.
This is the argument that we must buy peace at any price in society. Now remember, this policy of appeasement has brought nothing but disaster to civilization, both Western and Eastern. Do you remember that a famous British political figure argued that the British must accept peace at any price, and for that reason he precipitated World War I? Do you remember also that when Hitler was on the ascendant, many otherwise intelligent voices were also raised in appeasement? They said that no serious opposition or resistance should be made just to keep the calm and peace of society. This policy of appeasement precipitated World War II. And in any event, regardless of what other people in other scenarios may have done, I, as a person, have always been uncompromising about what I perceive to be evil in society. Election fraud is evil. When we are confronted with it, we must expose the problem to public scrutiny. And furthermore, all that I have done so far has been within the constitutional and legal parameters. We have engaged the services of a legal staff. They have presented proof before the Congress. That undertaking is still ongoing. And at the same time, I try and disseminate the information that our legal staff is presenting to the Congress, to the Filipino nation as a whole.
Miriam.
So I do not see why I am to be condemned for this behavior.
Miriam, it appears that you held a press conference just about a day ago.
Saturday.
And you presented proof that there was widespread fraud during the elections. Do you believe that this widespread fraud that you abused would be of a volume and of a dimension that would change the results of the Comelec count and the MCQC count in your favor?
Exactly. In fact,
what makes you say that?
Because it involves about 1.5 to 2 million votes at least. And in that volume, the number of question votes or ballots will be sufficient to affect the eventual outcome or the results of the election.
But do you have enough proof to support that?
Yes, we do. We presented proof for each and every province as they have been called out by the Joint Canvassing Committee. But the problem is, every time we raise a hue and cry and we present our evidence, mostly documentary in nature, such as this one that I have brought, and I will request your cameras to close this up later. But every time we do so, the Joint Canvassing Committee simply makes the ruling noted. Noted simply means let's set it aside and let's get on with the arithmetical tabulation. So if we continue with this trend of action on the part of Joint Canvassing Committee, we'll never be able to avail of an opportunity to present reasonable proof of election fraud, because exactly the premise of our position is that election fraud will surface only if the canvassing by Congress goes beyond the province-level election document, which is called the Certificate of Canvass, goes beyond the Certificate of Canvass back to the election returns, which are the precinct-level election documents.
We had Comelec Commissioner Heidi Yorag as the guest of options several weeks ago. And she made a claim, and she made it very emphatically and categorically, that the function of Congress in this tabulation is simply ministerial. Ministerial meaning just authenticating the certificates of canvass and the due execution, and that it should not go further into examination of details and protests and so on and so forth. How do you react to what Heidi York said?
It is very easy to misunderstand these technical details if a person does not have exposure to the legal system. So I will have to be technical. Article 7, Section 4 of our Constitution provides that Congress shall canvass the certificates for the presidential elections upon determination of their due execution and authenticity. These are the exact words of the Philippine Constitution. It uses the phrase due execution and authenticity. Notice that this phrase was used only by the 1987 Constitution. It was not found in the 1935 or in the 1973 Constitution, which means that under the old constitutions, Congress' duty was ministerial. That is to say, it was arithmetical or automatic. All they had to do was accept the certificates of canvass from every province in the country, write them up on a board, and then add them all, and voila, we had a Philippine president. But with the addition of this new phrase, upon determination of authenticity and due execution, the Philippine Constitution has changed the role of the Philippine Congress as a canvassing board. That function has now become discretionary. It is not ministerial. Discretionary means that Congress possesses power of judgment when it discharges the function of tabulation.
Mayor, excuse me, but okay, I may grant that you are very strongly convinced that you have the law of your side. But just supposing that Congress sets your objections aside and proclaims Eddie Ramos as the president, what happens after
and
that?
that may not even be idle supposition, because I understand that they have a game plan to hold the proclamation by Wednesday or within this week. And so that is why, in retrospect, my behavior will become not only intelligible, but I hope pardonable, because I have always seen my function to be that of the town crier, to make a hue and cry because there is a thief in the neighborhood. And some people, bothered in their sleep, are turning over in their beds or are pushing up the window shutters and saying, "Shut up, Miriam. Why are you bothering the neighborhood?" And I am explaining, it's not me who's bothering the neighborhood, it's the thief.
Miriam, we'll have to pause for a brief break. I mean, in the next segment, Sete comes in with our questions.
Okay. Dr. Santiago had many interesting comments, and we were rushing at the line before we went to the commercial break. You said many striking things in your last statement. One is that you have called certain people thieves. Who are you calling a thief?
The people who perpetrated election fraud. For example, the people who were behind the falsification of these two basic election documents in the province of Romblon. I have here the certificates of votes of candidates issued by the Provincial Board of Canvassers of Romblon. I have another document called the Certificates of Canvass. Normally, the certificates of votes for a province is issued all in handwriting because it is an advance copy, and each watcher of every political party is given a copy. So our PRP poll watcher access to this handwritten copy, an advance copy. And then a few hours later, the certificate of canvass put down in black and white the same information carried in the advance copy. This is now the formal or the final copy. And yet, these two documents, which are meant only to be copies of each other, cannot be reconciled because they bear different figures. They have been summarized as follows by this top document. So if your camera will grant me a close-up, you will see that I have here my name, Santiago. I happen to have stopped the tabulations for the province of Romblon. So Santiago, in the early or the advanced election document called the Certificate of Vote, is credited with this number, 26,105. And the next ranking candidate, Ramos, is credited with 3,609 votes. This is in the advanced copy, handwritten, because it is done so early. But when these votes were transferred from the document called Certificate of Vote, and they were transferred to the document called Certificate of Canvass for delivery to the Congress, the votes were switched around. And my 26,105 votes have now been credited to Mr. Ramos, whereas Mr. Ramos's vote have gone to somebody else, and somebody else's votes have gone to me. It's very clear from this document. So when I say there is a thief in the neighborhood, I am referring to the people, among others, who were responsible for the preparation of these documents.
But granting for the sake of argument that there was cheating, it's widely accepted that, all right, everybody cheats and that there is no such thing as an absolutely clean election. Will all of these figures that you now cite, will they make a substantial difference in the final outcome?
They will. Certificates of canvass of at least 14 provinces. And in addition, right now, there are about 2,000 missing precincts. So how can Congress make a proclamation when at least 2,000 precincts are missing in their tabulation? And in addition, there are missing thousands more of the election documents at the precinct level called statements of votes. If you add up all of these missing documents called statements of votes at the precinct level, they will total more or less about 8 million votes. So we have this high a number of questionable and suspicious votes. That is why, if a president is proclaimed on the basis only of the canvass certificate, for the next 6 years, the brooding omnipresence in the Philippine sky will be the unresolved question of the extent of wholesale election cheating. And besides, I would like to beg your indulgence. I wish to point out that although there may be certain sectors of society who believe that we must learn to live with or to accommodate or to compromise with the fact of cheating in Philippine elections, there is a significant number of people, particularly in the lower economic classes, who believe that by this time, 1992, we should no longer acquiesce in or even tolerate cheating. Maski sana kung pumunta ngayong shopping mall, kahapon lamang nasa Robinson's Galleria, pumupunta ako sa SM City, sa EDSA, napunta ako sa Ayala Center, napunta ako sa Cash and Carry, sa Landmark dito sa Makati, maski saan, regardless of the clientele to which the mega malls might be catering, either upper middle class, or lower middle class. People come to me. They ask for the usual autographs and photo sessions, but in addition they say, "Naku ma'am, nadaya tayo ng halalan na. Sana labanan mo."
Pero Miriam, alam mo, I mean, I've been a journalist for 40 years and I've covered virtually all the elections in this country. And I have not seen or covered any elections which were devoid of cheating.
That's correct.
Endemic yata ang cheating sa kultura natin, no?
Yes.
Isn't it possible that the cheating you're mentioning was cheating on a local level? And that it's very difficult to prove that cheating on a local level can be telescoped into saying that cheating was on a level that was arranged at the top with people conspiring with each other, to include Cory Aquino, the COMELEC, and the watchers of the Philippine Parish Council for Responsible Voting. That would have meant a conspiracy to deprive you of victory. Do you agree there was such a conspiracy?
A conspiracy is one thing, but cheating on a nationwide level sufficient to affect the outcome of the presidential elections is another thing. And that my legal staff before the Congress have amply proved. They have presented substantial evidence that a reasonable mind would accept as adequate to support a conclusion, such as this document. This does not concern local candidates. This concerns presidential candidates.
I agree. Pero ang mangyayari dito, no, it seems to be, well, maybe not evident, but the momentum seems to be pointing in that direction, that despite your very passionate protest, Congress will presumably proclaim Fidel Ramos as the winner of the May. Then what are you going to do after that?
As I said in the Saturday press conference, first, the game plan is we must exhaust all constitutional remedies, even only for the fact that I teach constitutional law at the University of the Philippines Law School. And the first step in this constitutional agenda is to appeal to Congress, just do what the law says. The law says you must conduct presidential tabulations if there is doubt as to their veracity and the results would be sufficient to affect the outcome of the elections. Then you must conduct the tabulation not in an arithmetically progressive manner simply by adding one certificate of canvass after another, but you must go beyond them so that you can determine the authenticity and due execution of the canvas certificate.
Miriam, I don't know if you correctly quoted, but reports in the media claim that you were paid or very well, excuse me, there was an offer to pay you the amount of 300 million to shut you up, and at the same time a cabinet post to go with it. Is that correct?
Not to me personally,
Not
but to
you
my
personally.
agent at a meeting arranged at the request of the other party.
Were you able to confirm the authenticity of that report?
I go by the report of my agent.
I see. And you believe it's serious?
I consider it an insult, and I have never bothered to inquire about the degree of seriousness with which the offer is made. I just consider it totally
I see.
aggravating.
Could it have been a prank? I mean, you know, it's a fair game. You're fair game for anybody now. Could it have been a prank and not
no.
a serious offer?
No, this is a very serious person that I sent because I thought that we were going to talk about the mechanics of the tabulation in the Congress, what the attitude of each presidential candidate was at that point. I thought that the inquiry would be of that nature, and so I sent a person in whom I have total trust and confidence, and who, I must add, parenthetically, enjoys very high standing in the Makati business community.
We'll have to go into a break again. Stay with us. Top of my previous question about this offer of 300 million pesos to you, would you be able to identify the person who told you about
Oh
it?
yes,
You
definitely.
can.
Oh, here on the show?
Yeah.
I doubt very much if he
I
would
see.
welcome it.
And secondly, that you were offered a cabinet position. Would you kindly give us the honor of knowing exactly what cabinet position was offered?
I don't
to you?
even know myself. It was apparently placed at my discretion.
At your discretion.
Yes.
And if you had accepted, what would you have preferred?
That is an eventuality that I will not even consider intellectually.
You've closed that book. You've
Yes,
closed
of
that
course.
particular
Yes.
book. Okay, you were saying earlier that you've been going to the shopping malls, and I understand that you've been going incognito sometimes with your children to go to movies.
Not incognito. I don't wear a mustache or
But I mean, looking as
I'm not dressed up.
yes, as ordinary as you would like to be. Why do you do that?
Because I wanted to test the reaction of the public. I wanted to know whether the public perceives me as a winner or as a loser.
And what's the perception?
Far be it for me to say, but since apparently many people think that humility is not one of my outstanding virtues, I may as well go ahead.
Go all out. Yeah.
I wanted to see whether the general public, both the sales girls and the customers, would treat me as some form of communicable disease. In other words, I wanted to see if I was a big yawn, if people would say, oh, there goes another defeated politician. We don't want to have anything to do with her. We just want to get on with the rest of our lives. But that has not been the reaction. I've never been able to carry out any of my simple errands during these enterprises, during these epic journeys through the shopping malls, simply because too many people ask for autographs or ask for photo sessions, and in fact, quite a number have been frustrated because I could not stay long enough.
But you know, I think it's a given that you are indeed a celebrity and you know of mega proportions. What about those who used to be rabid Miriam supporters and are now beginning to sour or beginning to question your motives? What about them?
I am not familiar with these people because I am able to access only to the supporters who want me to continue the crusade. But in any event, we shall soon know. In the very proximate future, by Wednesday specifically,
What's happening?
I shall start my speaking tour of the university campuses, beginning with Metro Manila and then spreading throughout the country. And we shall see how the students, particularly those who were first time or otherwise, in any event, who were voters on last May 11, will react to me. If I'm a big yawn, I'll go home. I promise you, I will never inflict myself again on the Filipino people.
That's your constituency, the youth,
Right.
no? But I have another question. Imelda Marcos, the former First Lady, has just conceded and admitted to see that she lost, and states very categorically that in her mind, Fidel Ramos has won the May 11 elections. Would that have any effect on your fight, in your crusade?
Absolutely not.
Nothing, eh?
I entertain no interest of any substantial nature in the workings of the mind of Imelda Marcos. Who can fathom the mind of this woman?
supposing Miriam. Okay, let's not talk about Imelda. But supposing I don't know if he is just about as adamant as you are, as determined, and as what you might call digging in his own factual as you are. But supposing that Dinko Juanco should concede that he was defeated and that Fidel Ramos was the winner, would that have any effect on your crusade?
No.
None whatsoever.
Even if I were the last person among 62 million Filipinos, I will still assert and attempt to prove with every legal measure and capability within my command as a lawyer that there was election fraud. For it is the duty of every Filipino and every Christian to denounce election fraud as a variation, as a mutant of the age-old problem of graft and corruption.
So you believe that the best cause worth fighting for is a lost cause?
Exactly. Not necessarily a lost
No, because
cause.
they might proclaim a president, no?
Yes,
Yeah.
in fact, I think that might be a reasonable conclusion to make at this stage.
Miriam, why are you different?
Why don't I just roll over and play dead when people threaten me, when they hire very expensive, possibly even foreign media firms to launch orchestrated, lavishly funded propaganda campaigns to manipulate the minds of the public? So why don't I just accede and say, well, here's the cabinet position of my choice and a few other juicy positions as well, such as, for example, appoint my person immigration commissioner or customs commissioner, or maybe even accept outright cash, or any of the variations of a cash buyout that take place in Philippine politics. And your question is, what keeps you going? What keeps me going is that I go to Mass every day. I'm a Christian. I go to Mass every day, and on my knees I pray that the Holy Spirit shall come and enlighten not only me, but my people.
But don't you see the handwriting on the wall? I mean, people will say, don't you see the handwriting on the wall?
Even if that handwriting were written by a dozen, by 100, by 1,000, by 1,000,000 devils, I will never succumb to the handwriting on the wall. I would rather perish than give up what I believe in.
Miriam, is it true that you indicated that a military coup was possible? Because you said that the 200,000 soldiers or so that took up your cause during the elections will never allow, matter of fact, the cheating in these elections, you see, to pass by without their having to say something about it.
Yes, I said that the more or less 200,000 enlisted man component of our armed forces will not take this lying down.
Yeah.
There is a restiveness in the military and in the youth sector. It is almost palpable. They're not talking, they are waiting for a clue, for a signal.
Have you had any contacts with some people in the military, or have they tried to contact you and told you how they feel?
Absolutely not, except our former senatorial candidates, because you know that 5 of them are retired generals. They were in my house during my birthday. We meet on social occasions. We have never discussed, directly or indirectly, by means of euphemisms or otherwise, the possibility of instigating or even supporting or even sympathizing with
Miriam,
any military disturbance of society.
why are you such a fighter? What explains your drive to keep fighting all the time? That you don't seem to realize, see, that you're fighting against insurmountable odds and that you could be knocked out. What keeps you fighting? What is this drive that keeps hitting you and making you go out there to the barricades all the time?
Why did the first man climb the first mountain? Why did the first inventor attempt to fly, contrary to all logic, during his time? Why did man fly to the moon? Why? Because God gave us an intellect so that we will act not only visually to ensure our own survival, but also so that we shall reach out for the stars, even though it is beyond our grasp. I foresee that the Filipino people very soon will come into their own as a major economy and political power to reckon with in the Asian region. And all of this is part of the process towards that eventual status of political maturity. We must confront our problems and our deficiencies. We cannot improve as a people if we insist on a policy of ignoring problems.
I had a follow-up question, but again, we'll have to pause despite all the excitement for a brief pause.
That time moves so fast. I wanted to also... Miriam, you've sparked the imagination of the Filipino people, and I remember quite well 4 years ago when you were at CID, your first quotable quote was, "I eat death threats for breakfast."
Going over your 4-year meteoric career in government, what comes to your mind now that you have supposedly lost the election, that you've mounted a impressive campaign? When you're lying in bed at night, what comes to your mind? How do you feel?
First of all, please let me make a minor correction in your statement. I won in the voting. I was cheated in the counting. That is a faithful reproduction of reality. And you ask what I think of when I'm in bed.
Yes, what do you think of?
I have always compartmentalized my life. When I'm at home, I think of homely matters. When I'm in the office, of office matters. When I'm in bed, what do I think of? Matters connected with a particular piece of furniture.
I mean, does
in any
it
event,
bother you?
to answer it seriously, what do I think of? I think, what is the will of God for me? I must discern this will. And with every ounce of energy, with every breath that I take, I must focus myself on the implementation and the operationalization of this will. I must operationalize God's will on earth. That is the best reason for living. Otherwise, life would not be anything but short, nasty, and brutish.
Any regrets about what you have done?
Absolutely not. I did what I thought I must do. And let me inform you, I think you might even have some intimation of this because of our college days together in the UP campus. I never wanted to enter politics. I never wanted to run for president. I wanted to be an academician, at most maybe a member of the Supreme Court of our country. But all the same, I willed myself to do what I did because I thought that was what was incumbent on me.
Miriam, since you mentioned bed, no? Forgive me for asking, how's your love life? Because I will add the fact that when we invited you once to address the office of the press secretary, you were complaining that you were so busy you had no time for your love life. Do you have some time for your love life?
Well, only about a month ago I said that I had the love life of frozen yogurt. I had all the passion and intensity of frozen yogurt. But I believe that there is some improvement looming on the horizon.
I see. Okay.
Good news.
I won't ask about the improvement looming on the... I'll ask you another question, entirely different. What do you think of Fidel Ramos? Do you think he will make a good president? Or do you feel that he does not have the qualifications to lead his country to higher ground? How do you feel about the matter?
I have no feelings because I am emotionally disengaged from the political process. I have trained myself, this is the discipline of the legal profession, that I must always view things within the legal perspective. What I can see down the road for him is trouble with a big T, because in the first place, he will be a minority president. This cannot be helped. These are simply the results of the dynamics of our multi-party system. No president could have won a majority vote. But there it is. He will be a plurality president. His plurality will be extremely tiny. He will lead by a very narrow margin. And for that reason, particularly if no special elections are held, or if the tabulation is conducted only on the basis of the wholesale documents called the canvass certificates and not on the basis of the precinct level documents called the election returns, if this is done, then forever there will be a cloud of doubt always hovering over his head.
I see.
He will never enjoy a mandate. And unfortunately, this mandate is absolutely necessary in order that the next president can attract the foreign investments, which are the only source of the economic surge of power that we so badly need.
I have an avalanche of questions on this matter, but since time is crowding in on us, I have another question. The grapevine continues to ring with some innuendos that there is still this tililing thing about you, and questions about your so-called mental composure, your mental equilibrium. How do you react to all these things about tililing?
I am habituated to this kind of perverse reaction from certain people because when I was in UP campus, Cheche will recall that she and I were both what is commonly called public figures, and we realized very early you cannot please all the people all at the same time.
I view it with this attitude. One does not go out of his way to kill an ant. If I were a totally useless member of society, then there would be no rationale, no raison d'etre for all of these expensive propaganda efforts that they have been so obviously and blatantly engaged in just to destroy my character.
When you say these things about going out to kill an ant, who's afraid of Miriam Defensor Santiago? Is anybody afraid of you?
Like Virginia
yes.
Woolf.
Like Virginia Woolf?
Oh yes, definitely. I pose a constant, unremitting, and implacable threat to the consciences of certain people, which will explain the bitterness, the rancor, the malice with which they always attack me inveterately. Who are these people? The people who stand by gaining if we maintain the status quo of graft and corruption.
When will your passions die down, Miriam? Mount Pinatubo at times also takes a rest, no? But it seems that you are forever implacable in your passions. Was there a time that, like Ecclesiastes, there's a time to erupt and there's a time to become, shall we say, a little bit still?
No, never. Because that would be a fate worse than death. Death is nothing but a state of thermodynamic equilibrium. And right now I hear the voices of death saying, Miriam, maintain thermodynamic equilibrium. They are, in effect, offering me death on a silver platter, and I refuse to accommodate.
Miriam, we have run out of time, and so Cheche and I would appreciate if you could give our audience on Firing Line a 1-minute message on exactly how you feel on this, your birthday.
Article 3, Section 4 of the Constitution provides, no law shall be passed abridging the right of the people peaceably to assemble and petition the government for redress of grievances. All that I have done has been to assemble our people so that we can petition Congress and the rest of the nation to redress this grievance brought about by massive wholesale election fraud, the worst in the history of this country. And immediately we have provoked a firestorm of recrimination from those who should know better. But I remind them of the famous essay on liberty by John Mill. He said, let a person speak. If he speaks falsehood, then he will be revealed and unmasked for the fool and the liar that he might be. But if he speaks the truth, then it can only benefit society. And let us remember the famous dissenting opinion by Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes Jr., who said, the best test of truth is the capacity of the truth to get itself accepted in the marketplace of ideas. Ladies and gentlemen of the Filipino nation, I present my case before you. You judge in the marketplace of ideas whether what I speak is the truth. For without my people, without the youth, the military who voted for me, I am nothing. I am a cipher. I'm only a glitch on your television screens. Thus, people should not be afraid of me. People should be afraid of the Filipinos.
Thank you. Spoken like Miriam on her 47th birthday anniversary. Mount Pinatubo. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, Miriam. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheche, after more than 40 minutes with Miriam Defensor Santiago on her 47th birthday, coinciding with the eruption of Mount Pinatubo, I have an immediate, what you might call, flashback to a French author who started the encyclopedia. His name was Diderot. And I will quote him in French. And he said, il y a que les passions, et surtout les grandes passions, qui puissent amener l'âme aux grandes choses. Translated into English, there is nothing but passions, and particularly the great passions which can bring the soul to great things. And I think of Miriam in that light, you see, when we were interviewing her for about 40 minutes. Now, you are a woman, Cheche, and I suppose you react in a different way to how I react to Miriam. How do you feel about this?
I think that this word passion is a word that is synonymous with Miriam.
Yes.
And she has always had this kind of a passion. From the first time I met her, after school, where we were in school together, but as a journalist. The first time we ever met her, she had this fire in her belly she had a crusading spirit.
I see.
And I think this is to be admired. I personally feel that there is room for a lot of Miriams or people like Miriam to bloom in this country. You need people like her who have this passion for righteousness, passion for truth, passion for democracy, passion for being able, as she quoted John Mill, to be able to speak your mind.
She shakes everything up.
Yes, and why not? I think we all need a shakedown once in a while.
Especially the men?
Oh, sure, everybody. I think she brings to the fore the strength of women. Now, whether or not, as she herself said, she should keep quiet and just for the sake of peace, it's something which many people have argued about, and whether that is a sensible thing to do now, accept what is here and keep this country moving forward, is also debatable as we move forward in this, after the proclamation of Ramos. Do you think that she makes a difference?
Well, all I know is that Miriam is a mushroom cloud, no?
A mushroom cloud. What does that mean?
You mean a fireball that emerges during an atomic explosion. You hear that mushroom cloud over there?
Yes.
And she sort of reminds me of a mushroom cloud that keeps growing and growing and has a very hard time to dissipate, no?
What's the fallout of a mushroom cloud?
Oh, the fallout can be terrible if you don't watch out. And Miriam, I think, has a gift, not just for shaking things up, but for illuminating the horizon, whether for good or for bad or whatever. I think that every now and then people come out and come up for the purpose of shaking us all up. And Miriam is fulfilling that purpose.
Do you think she's overdoing it?
It's hard to say. There are times when, even as much as I admire Miriam, and she knows that I admire her, there are times when I feel like quoting Ecclesiastes to her and saying, Miriam, there's a time to fight and there's time to cease fire. But it seems that cease fire is not in her vocabulary.
Well, I told you, fire in her belly is something which is associated with her. I think we need her in our society to shake us up, like you said. But like Ecclesiastes, maybe there is a time to calm down. But don't forget, you made an analogy about Pinatubo.
Yes, I did.
Pinatubo has threatened to keep erupting for the next 5 years. So there's no saying. And like many people have pointed out, Pinatubo has changed the landscape of this country.
Precisely, and so has Miriam. No? On that note, we will have to say good night, and we are very thankful, as a matter of fact, that we had Miriam on firing line on her 47th birthday, coinciding with the eruption on Mount Pinatubo. Glad to have you aboard, Cheche.
Thank you. I'm Cheche Lazaro. Thank you very much.
Teddy Benigno of the Philippine Star. Keep fighting.